Hello everyone. The topic which we are going to discuss today is the art of judgment writing in criminal cases. It's a very important topic with respect to the examination point of view for the exam of civil judges as well as additional district and session judges. However, the lecture is equally important for the members of legal fraternity as well. So let's start the lecture by relevant provisions of law. The relevant provisions of this topic are section 366 and 377 of CRPC, and the relevant chapter is chapter 26. Apart from that, the chapter 1G of Lahore High Court Rules and Orders volume 3 is also relevant. In the cross references section we have section 250, 517, 522 and 522A CRPC, and apart from that there are some other sections which we will discuss in the later part of the video. First of all, we will discuss the structure of the judgment. In the structure of the judgment, first of all we have the name of the court, then we will share the case number and then the names of the parties. In the names of the parties, as a complainant in a state case, it is the state who is the complainant. However, in a complaint case, it is always a private person who is mentioned as complainant of the case. The other party is accused who are being tried for the offense, and the name of accused is to be mentioned with full particulars. Full particulars include his name, his parentage, his caste, his profession, his residence, and the age of accused. The relevant rule 1 of chapter 1G of Lahore High Court Rules and Orders Volume 3 makes it mandatory for court to mention the age of accused in the relevant section of judgment while mentioning the particulars of accused. Next is the particulars of FIR, which include the FIR number, the sections under which the FIR has been registered, and the name of police station in which the FIR has been registered. In case of a case being prosecuted on the basis of a private complaint, it will include the number of complaint, the date of complaint, and the sections under which the complaint has been preferred. Further, we will discuss the body of judgment. In the body of judgment, first of all, the facts of the case are narrated. It includes a brief statement of allegations contained in FIR, and then the investigation conducted by the IO and his findings are to be mentioned in the part of judgment. This investigation may be mentioned with a separate heading. However, it depends and varies with the style of the judicial officers. After that is the statement regarding under trial accused and proclaimed offenders. First of all, the court will mention the names of the accused and details which were summoned by the court and they appeared, and the names of under trial accused regarding which the judgment is going to be announced, and in case there are some POs that proclaimed offenders under section 88 of CRPC, that factum is also to be specifically stated. Next is the contents of judgment. The contents of judgment have been provided in section 367 CRPC. It provides that a judgment will contain the points for determination, the decision thereon, and reasons for the decision. The points of determination in criminal case may also be termed as the charge. Therefore, while stating the points of determination, often the points mentioned in the charge are reproduced in the judgment. The framing of charge is mentioned in the judgment and it is mandatory. After that, the guilty plea, if any, of the accused is recorded, and in case the accused has not pleaded guilty, then the denial of the plea and claim of accused for trial is mentioned. For the ease of reference, the framing of charge by magisterial court under section 242 and framing of charge by session courts under section 265D. And further, the guilty plea, again magisterial court 242 and session court 265E. A specimen para is provided for the guidance. You can see that in this way a para regarding the framing of charge is mentioned in the judgment. Copies as required under section 241A, that is in case of magisterial court, and under section 265C. It is 265, it is wrongly mentioned as 256. It is actually 265C of CRPC, were supplied to the accused free of cost, and if formal charge was framed to which he pleaded not guilty and claimed trial. The next important matter to be discussed and mentioned in the judgment is evidence. Evidence may be broadly categorized into oral evidence, medical evidence, and recovery evidence. Here is a specimen para discussing the judgment, discussing the evidence in the judgment. It says, in order to prove charge, prosecution produced 12 witnesses in all and renounced the testimony of witness such and such being unnecessary. It means if any witness has been given up by the prosecution, that factum is also to be mentioned in the judgment. Thereafter, a gist of prosecution evidence is given. Please remember that the whole of the prosecution evidence in verbatim is not to be reproduced, rather a gist of the witnesses' depositions is given. For example, here we have PW1, who is a constable and who's deposited one sealed parcel said to contain blood-stained cotton and another sealed parcel said to contain pistol 30 bore to PFSA Lahore. These are the dates on which he deposited the parcels. Secondly, the PW2, it is the real brother of accused and witness of I account. He also attested the recovery memos and prime empty of pistol. These are the exhibits. So this is how we will discuss the gist of the prosecution evidence. Then is the arguments advanced by counsel for the parties. As far as arguments are concerned, there is no provision in CRPC which provides for hearing of arguments, but it is a letter of Honorable Lahore High Court Lahore. This is number and date, which says the court will invite the gist of arguments, and if they are submitted, it will form it part of file, and court will also mention the filing of arguments in the order sheet, and then the most important step, it will dilate and resolve those aspects in the judgment. The purpose of inviting arguments and discussing them is to discuss the controversy points urged by the parties by the court. Continuing those findings, the previous conviction, if any, will also be mentioned, and then there are some relevant facts to be discussed that include the dying declaration, the last seen evidence, the Watchtaker witness, and res gestae. And the D stands for defense. In the defense, you may see the statement of accused recorded under section 372 CRPC, and also the statement of accused under section 340 subsection 2, if any, which shows that this is option of the accused. After that, the most crucial important stage of the judgment is appraisal of evidence. It is also termed as evaluation of evidence, and in criminal cases it is for the prosecution to prove their case, and they will prove their case beyond any shadow of reasonable doubt, and as such in the first instance only evidence of prosecution should be discussed and evaluated, and if the prosecution has failed to prove the case, then there is no necessity to advert to the evidence led by the defense, and court can straightaway acquit the accused. Forwarding the slide to the next matter, if accused has adopted any specific plea, that specific plea may be plea of minority, self-defense, or alibi, etc., then the burden to prove that plea lies on the accused person. And further, in case of self-defense or excessive use of force, the stance of the parties has to be valued in juxtaposition by the court. And if the court finds that both the prosecution and defense are guilty of concealment of facts, then court may draw its own conclusion. Now from here we will divide the part of our lecture into two types. First is the matters which are to be mentioned in the judgment in case of conviction of accused by court. So let's see. First are the mitigating circumstances. In case the accused is being convicted, these mitigating circumstances are to be mentioned by court, and first of them is age, the second is ailment, whether the accused is first offender, in case the prosecution has failed to prove the motive or there was no motive. All these mitigating circumstances are to be considered and discussed by the court in case of conviction. And under section 367, subsection 5 of CRPC, where an offense is punishable with death or some imprisonment, and the court opts to sentence the accused for imprisonment, then mitigating circumstances are to be explained. So please remember this relevant provision. It will be helpful from examination point of view as well. Here is another situation under section 374, when the court of session passes death sentence. Death sentence, the proceedings will be submitted to High Court and the sentence shall not be executed unless it is confirmed by the High Court. Now there are some other important points that relate to conviction and sentencing. These points specifically relate to conviction and sentencing. The first point is imprisonment for a period of less than 1 year, where an accused is awarded any sentence of imprisonment under section 476 PPC or has been sentenced to imprisonment for a period of less than 1 year. The period is less than 1 year. The sentence shall not be executed if the accused furnishes bail bonds to the court until the expiry of period prescribed for making an appeal against such sentence. The next is previous period of detention. Section 382B of CRPC provides that the period spent in jail during the investigation and trial has to be excluded from the sentence which have been awarded to the accused. And this benefit is also available to a person whose sentence of death has been subsequently converted to imprisonment for life. Here is the reference of the judgment of Honorable Supreme Court of Pakistan on this point. Another important explanation in this regard is that the provision of 382B, the provisions pari materia, that is the provisions on the same subject from the UK and Indian jurisdictions, are section 67, Criminal Justice Act 1967, this is the act of UK, and section 428 of Indian Code of Criminal Procedure. Our next matter is under section 335, under section 35 CRPC, if the accused is punished in more than one offenses, and there is no mention in the judgment whether the sentence will run concurrently or consecutively, in that case it will run consecutively. And similarly, under section 33 CRPC, the imprisonment in default of payment of fine shall not exceed one-fourth of the term of imprisonment, which is the maximum for that offense. So here is the exact section, section 33, subsection 1, B of CRPC. The next important factor to be determined, and discussed in the judgment is age of accused. Though we have already discussed it, but it is so important that it has to be mentioned in the judgment, and the reason for mentioning it is it is relevant for awarding sentence and also for mitigating circumstances as well. Under section 399 CRPC, if accused is under age of 15 years, then upon conviction he is not sent to jail, but he is sent to reformatory school instead of jail. And similarly, under the juvenile justice system, identical provisions have also been provided. So we will now go to the next slide, that is the previous conviction of the accused is also to be mentioned, and at the time of final judgment, if there is a proclaimed offender, then his perpetual non-bailable warrants of arrest are also to be issued if not issued earlier. And accused may be convicted for an offense for which he has not been charged. Here is a situation that accused has been convicted for an offense for which he has not been charged, but the litmus test is that offense for which he is being convicted entails lesser punishment. For instance, an accused was charged under section 324 PPC and later on court convicted him under section 337 H2 PPC instead of 324 in that case, because the sentence under which he was convicted was a lesser punishment as compared to the charge which was originally framed against him, that was section 324. It is quite legal for the court to convict the accused for an offense with which he was not charged at the time of framing of charge. Section 545 of CRPC says that court can grant amount to the complainant for defraying expenses properly incurred in the prosecution out of fine amount. Similarly, under section 546A CRPC, in case of complaint, while convicting accused, the court may also order him to pay amount to the complainant. Under section 382 CRPC, if a woman is sentenced to death and that woman is found to be pregnant, then the sentence shall be postponed. It is mandatory for the court to postpone the sentence in case of a pregnant woman, and his sentence may also be commuted to life imprisonment. Under section 522 and 522A CRPC, a court can order the restoration of possession as well, the restoration of possession of movable property and is immovable property as well. In case of enhanced sentence, if a court wants to pass an enhanced sentence, the section 75 of the PPC comes into play. And in case where accused is sentenced to fine, or imprisonment in default of payment of fine, the sentence has to be suspended. This is provided by section 388 CRPC. This is next important slide which relates to section 228 PPC and its trial by the court, and it is providing the modus operandi to be adopted by the court while dealing with the trial of offences under section 228 PPC. The cross references in this regard are 480 and 482 CRPC. Now we will move towards the next slide. Under section 366 CRPC, if the accused is to be acquitted or sentenced to mere imposition of fine, the presence of accused at the time of pronouncement of judgment is not necessary. As a general rule, the judgment is announced in the presence of accused, but here an exception is being provided that where the accused is going to be acquitted or the sentence which is going to be imposed upon him is a sentence of fine, then the presence of accused is not necessary. Under section 367 CRPC, every page of the judgment is to be signed by the presiding officer. It is another important point with respect to the sentencing. There are certain offences for which the Pakistan Penal Code or in other penal statutes, minimum sentences have been provided that in case of conviction, the minimum standard of sentence has been set by the statute itself. Those sections include section 392, 95, 96, 97, 388, 303 PPC and 9C of CNSA as well. And while convicting the accused under such offences, the sentence awarded to such accused shall not be less than what has been provided under those laws. Under section 1517 CRPC, the case property has to be disposed of by way of destruction or return or confiscation. It is mandatory upon the court that at the time of conclusion of trial, it will order for disposal of case property, and these are the ways the disposal may be by way of destruction, return, or its confiscation. Under section 371, where court passes a judgment of conviction, then it is mandatory that the copy of judgment be given to the accused free of cost at the time of pronouncement of judgment. And further, where the court of session has tried an accused and convicted him, then the copy of the judgment is also to be sent to the officer in charge of the prosecution in the district, which usually is the district public prosecutor, also termed as DPP. Under section 369 CRPC, it is wrongly mentioned as CPC. Actually, it is not CPC, it is CRPC. Under this section, the clerical errors in a judgment can be rectified. Now we are moving towards the other part of the lecture. Prior to that, we were discussing the matters to be mentioned in the judgment in case of conviction. But now we will discuss the matters to be mentioned by court in case of acquittal of accused. In case of acquittal of accused, what are discussed? That is, the court will order as to bail bonds and surety bonds. And in case of acquittal, if the accused is on bail, then his bail bond and surety bond shall be discharged. And secondly, the court will order the release of accused if he is in custody, that he be set at liberty, if not required in any other case. Then the third one is under section 250 CRPC, if allegations are found false and frivolous, then the magisterial court may call upon the complainant to show cause as to why he should not pay compensation to the accused for an amount not exceeding 25,000 rupees. This section empowers the court, magisterial court, to grant compensation to the accused in case of false and frivolous allegations by complainant of case. So thank you. This was our video. These are some motivational quotes. That nothing is difficult if you trust Allah Almighty and work hard. Everyone has his own timeline, and don't compare yourself to others. In case of any questions, you may ask the questions in the comment section and we will try our best to meet with the needs of your question. Thank you. Thanks for the watching this video.